What if I told you that the thing you rely on the most to protect your life is actually the very thing keeping you stuck, tired, and out of alignment? Be still before another thought takes over, before another worry starts forming itself, before your mind runs ahead into imagined futures that do not exist yet. Be still. Not because the world has become quiet, but because you need to become quiet enough to recognize what has always been true underneath the noise. Worry has never fixed anything, not once. It has never extended your life, never created clarity, never brought real wisdom. It only gives the feeling of doing something while actually moving you away from solutions. Even scripture points this out when it asks what worry can truly add to your life or your height. It is not meant as criticism, but as an awakening. Worry is energy used in the wrong direction, and what is being offered here is deeper than comfort. It is not just reassurance or positive thinking. It is a shift in understanding, not optimism, but alignment, not a method, but a different way of being that makes worry unnecessary in the first place. Living without constant worry does not mean life becomes effortless. It means life becomes ordered, guided by an intelligence that does not panic, does not rush, and does not fail. That intelligence is not separate from you. It never was. When spiritual teachings speak of God, they are not pointing to a distant figure watching from afar. They are pointing to the creative intelligence behind all existence, the same intelligence that grows a seed in silence, that moves the planets without effort, that keeps your breath going without your instruction. The invitation has always been simple. Be still and recognize that presence. Stillness is not doing nothing. It is releasing the false belief that everything depends on you alone. Worry assumes you are carrying life by yourself. Faith is the awareness that you never were. Most people feel exhausted not because life is too heavy, but because they are carrying responsibilities that were never truly theirs. They try to solve everything from the surface level of thought, while real solutions exist at a deeper level of awareness. Even in the life of Jesus, worry was absent not because problems did not exist, but because he understood where control actually lies. When situations became overwhelming, he rested. When lack appeared, he gave thanks. When pressure increased, he withdrew inwardly. This was not avoidance, it was alignment. He acted from the awareness that a higher intelligence works through everything. This is the key that dissolves worry at its root. You are not the one forcing outcomes into place. You are the one choosing the inner state, and life reflects that state back to you. The deeper intelligence organizes everything else. Worry begins when you try to manage life from limitation instead of alignment. It is the attempt to control outcomes from a narrow perspective. But life itself is not narrow. It operates from total intelligence. When you worry, you are silently saying you do not trust the intelligence that holds your life together. When you trust, you stop resisting that intelligence and allow it to express itself through you. This is not passive surrender, it is active trust. Real faith is not hoping things will somehow work out. It is knowing that your inner state shapes what unfolds externally. Consciousness leads, experience follows. To release a burden is not to mentally repeat words, but to let go of the inner state of carrying it. You do not hand problems upward by thinking about them more. You release them by stepping out of the state of worry altogether. Worry is simply a state of consciousness built on the feeling of being unsupported or unguided, and every state reproduces its own reality. So the real shift is not solving the problem first, but changing the inner position you are holding toward it. This is why worry feels natural to the untrained mind. It feels like responsibility, but it is actually imbalance. Real responsibility is not anxiety. Real responsibility is alignment with clarity. You are responsible for your inner state. The unfolding of events belongs to a deeper intelligence. When you step out of that division, peace becomes natural again. When you assume the feeling of being guided and supported, you align with the same intelligence that moves everything in existence without strain. Even science indirectly reflects this truth. Systems function best when there is less interference. Over-control creates instability. Flow emerges from coherence, not tension. Your own body proves this every moment. When you trust, your muscles soften. When you worry, your body tightens before your thoughts even fully form it. Worry is not insight. It is a signal that you have temporarily forgotten the deeper order behind things. To release worry does not mean problems disappear instantly. It means you stop feeding them with fear. Fear is attention placed into imagined outcomes without trust, and attention is creative. What you repeatedly focus on emotionally begins to take shape in experience. So worry is imagination used unconsciously. Faith is imagination directed with awareness. When teachings say not to worry about tomorrow, they are not telling you to ignore life. They are guiding you to stop mentally living in a future that has not formed. Tomorrow is shaped by the state you are in today. If today is rooted in trust, tomorrow unfolds with order. If today is rooted in fear, tomorrow feels unstable. So the work is not to eliminate thinking, but to guide it back into alignment. When a problem appears, instead of spiraling into analysis, you pause and return inwardly. You recognize calmly that this is not something you need to carry alone. You allow intelligence to handle what you cannot fully see yet. Then you relax, not as escape but as trust in action. Relaxation is not laziness, it is cooperation with life. You do not need intense emotion or certainty. You need release from pressure, because in that release, deeper intelligence becomes active in ways your surface mind cannot control or predict. Often solutions appear unexpectedly, not because they were random, but because your awareness stopped interfering long enough for them to surface. Worry keeps attention locked on problems. Trust shifts attention toward resolution. That shift alone changes everything. This is why gratitude is powerful. It is not formality, it is alignment. When you express gratitude before results appear, you are confirming trust in an unseen order already at work. You are not meant to constantly figure out how everything will resolve. You are meant to stop interfering with the process. Each time you return from fear into trust, you are not pretending, you are realigning. And that realignment strengthens over time until worry loses its influence. At first, worry may still appear, but it does not stay as long. It no longer dominates. It becomes less convincing. Eventually it fades because it no longer has authority in your awareness. What replaces it is not emptiness, but quiet confidence. Life begins to feel guided instead of forced. Even delays start to make sense. Even obstacles feel like part of a larger movement. Nothing is wasted, nothing is random, nothing requires your panic to function. So when worry arises again, do not fight it. Recognize it, step out of it, return to the feeling of being supported. That return itself is the practice. Over time, this becomes natural. You stop reacting from fear and begin responding from clarity. Your actions become lighter, your decisions become clearer, your mind becomes less cluttered. At night, instead of replaying problems, you return to peace. You let go of mental control. You allow rest to take over completely. And in that rest, deeper intelligence continues working without interference. You are not being asked to fix everything. You are being asked to stop believing you must. Worry was never about the situation itself. It was about the belief that you are alone in handling it. That belief is what dissolves here. You were never meant to carry life by yourself. You participate in it, but you do not control its total movement. When you understand this, something shifts deeply inside you. Pressure reduces, breathing opens, thinking slows. And slowly, life stops feeling like something you must constantly manage and starts feeling like something you are moving with. Be still again, not as escape, but as recognition. It is already being handled. Stay here with your breath, with the step in front of you, with this moment as it is. Life does not unfold in some distant future. It unfolds right here, in the present. And what you're looking for, the answers, the movement, the resolution, they all rise out of presence, not from chasing what hasn't happened yet. As you begin to live this way, something shifts in a quiet but undeniable way. Life starts to meet you in the middle. Not because you forced it, not because you figured everything out perfectly, but because you stopped resisting what was already in motion. You were never meant to carry every solution on your shoulders. You were meant to align with the intelligence that already holds them. So move gently with yourself. Return to stillness whenever you feel pulled away. Stay committed to releasing again and again until it becomes natural. When worry shows up, you don't follow it. When fear speaks, you soften instead of reacting. When pressure builds, you turn inward, not outward, until one day you notice something surprising. Worry hasn't been around for a while. Not because life suddenly became flawless, but because you are steady now, rooted in trust, grounded in a deeper order, resting in the quiet knowing that you are not walking through life alone. You never have been, and you never will be. Be still. Even now, things are being taken care of. And then something settles deeper than words. You begin to feel, without needing proof, that life has never been against you. The tension you carried was never coming from life itself. It came from pushing against it. And when that resistance fades, everything begins to feel different. Not necessarily easier on the surface, but clearer inside. Not softer in every moment, but more stable in meaning. You start to see that challenges are not disruptions. They are part of the flow itself. They are not signs that you've been abandoned, but invitations to trust more deeply than before. This is where worry loses its foundation, because worry assumes everything is chaotic at the core. And now you understand, without needing to convince yourself, that there is no chaos at the center. There is intelligence, there is timing, there is purpose unfolding in ways your mind cannot fully trace. This understanding doesn't make you passive, it makes you focused. You stop scattering your energy into imagined futures and bring it back into what is here now. And in the present moment, you find exactly what you need. Clarity for the next step, strength for what is in front of you, grace for what you cannot yet see. Grace isn't something that arrives later. It's already here the moment you stop resisting. This is why it was said that each day carries enough within itself. You are not meant to carry tomorrow's weight today. You are only meant to be present with what is here, and presence is where everything begins to move. Worry depends on projection. It feeds on imagined loss, imagined failure, imagined outcomes. But when you stay present, those projections lose their power. Your imagination returns to its true role, not creating fear, but aligning with trust. You begin to imagine from a place of calm. You see yourself supported, guided, steady, not by force, but gently, like remembering something you always knew. Over time, the shift becomes visible. What used to take hours to calm down now settles quickly. Thoughts that once consumed you pass through without staying. This is not suppression, this is growth. You realize you are not the storm, you are the one aware of it. And slowly, your inner world stabilizes. You wake up without that constant tension. You move through your day with less defensiveness. You fall asleep without replaying everything. Something deep has changed. You no longer believe that worry is necessary to stay safe. You understand now that help is always present, but receiving it requires letting go. So letting go becomes something you practice in small, quiet ways. You release the need to control how things will happen. You release the urgency to know when everything will resolve. You release the habit of replaying what cannot be changed. And in that release, space opens, space for insight, space for peace, space for answers that arrive without force. You'll notice how often clarity comes when you're not searching for it. A thought appears, a moment lines up, something opens without effort. This is not luck, this is alignment. When the mind is no longer tight, life flows through it more easily. This is why surrender is not weakness, it is intelligence working with itself. You are not giving up your life, you are letting go of the illusion that you have to control every part of it. And as this understanding settles into you, it begins to shape how you move forward. When something difficult appears, you pause before reacting. You soften before trying to figure it all out. You take a breath and remind yourself quietly, this is not mine alone to carry. Then you take the next step that feels clear, not everything at once, just what is in front of you. Life does not require dramatic effort, it responds to cooperation, and cooperation feels like calm movement. You will still think, you will still plan, you will still care deeply, but care replaces worry. Care is steady, care is present, care acts without fear. Worry, on the other hand, is care distorted by fear, and fear fades in the presence of trust. So trust becomes natural, not forced, but logical. You see clearly now that worry never protected you, but trust has already begun changing how life responds to you. You feel it in your body, you notice it in timing, you sense it in the quiet confidence replacing the noise in your mind. This is the result of alignment, and it continues to grow the more you allow it. Stay here, stay open, let life handle what it is designed to handle, and allow yourself to live the way you were always meant to. Present, grounded, free from unnecessary weight. Be still, the pressure is lifting. And now let even the feeling of urgency fade away. There is nothing you are behind on right now, nothing slipping away, nothing falling apart because you paused. That pressure you used to feel was never truth, it was a habit. And once you see a habit clearly, it begins to lose its power. You see now that worry was like a kind of prayer, but directed toward fear. And now you've chosen something different, you've chosen trust. This doesn't make you careless, it makes you attentive in the right direction. Your attention now rests on alignment, not anxiety. And life reflects that back to you. When your attention is grounded, life feels ordered. When your attention is scattered, life feels chaotic. Not as punishment, but as reflection. So now you are choosing what you reflect. You choose calm, you choose trust, you choose to rely on something deeper than constant effort. And because of that, your inner world feels quieter, not empty, but open. In that openness, clarity moves more freely. Decisions feel lighter, you stop overcomplicating choices. You act and then you release. Releasing becomes your strength. You are not detached from life. You are free from fear. You still care, but without gripping tightly, and that grip was what drained you before. Now you hold life with openness, and life responds in the same way. You begin to notice a rhythm, a natural timing. You stop forcing conversations. You stop demanding immediate clarity. You allow things to unfold step by step. This is how life guides, not by showing everything at once, but by revealing what is needed next. And that is always enough. You learn to trust the sequence, and in that trust, worry fades, because you no longer feel like everything must be solved immediately. Life has never worked that way. You gently bring your mind back when it tries to run ahead again, back to your breath, back to what is here, back to the understanding that nothing important is being missed. You are where you need to be. Even your past begins to feel different. You stop revisiting it with harshness. You begin to see that even what felt like failure was guiding you. Nothing was wasted, and if nothing was wasted, then nothing is being lost now. This frees you from judging yourself so harshly. You start to listen differently inside, not to criticism, but to guidance. And guidance feels calm, so you let peace guide you. If something brings you closer to peace, you move toward it. If something pulls you away from it, you let it go. This is clarity in action. And as you live this way, life begins to cooperate more naturally. You find yourself in the right places at the right times. Conversations flow more easily. Decisions come without pressure. This is what happens when worry is no longer in the way. Life was always meant to feel like this. Not like a constant struggle, but like a quiet partnership with something wiser than fear. So if there is still a part of you holding on tightly, let it hear this softly. You don't have to hold everything together. In the end, everything returns to something very simple and very powerful. You were never meant to carry life on your own. The weight you've been feeling was never truly yours. It was the result of trying to control what was always being handled by a greater intelligence. Worry was never your strength. It only made things feel heavier, louder, and more urgent than they really were. And now you see clearly that peace is not something you earn after solving everything. Peace is where solutions begin. So the shift is quiet but life-changing. You stop trying to force outcomes and instead you align yourself inwardly. You trust more. You release more. You allow life to move without constant interference. And as you do this, everything starts to feel different, not because challenges disappear, but because they no longer control you. You become steady. You become grounded. You become someone who acts with clarity instead of reacting with fear. And in that state, life flows more naturally, more smoothly, and with far less resistance. The real freedom is this: knowing you are supported, guided, and never alone in what you face. Knowing that you only need to handle your inner state, and life will take care of the rest. So you move forward lighter. You do what you can, and you release what you cannot. You trust the process even when you don't fully see it. And you return again and again to stillness. Because in stillness, you remember the truth. It is already being handled. If this message brought you peace, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon on Law of Assumption so you never miss a moment like this. And comment the word aligned below if you're choosing trust over worry from this moment on.